Hi there, guys. So this will be a little bit of a different video. I thought I would pool together all of the construction books that I collected over a long time since I was a teenager. And I have always been fascinated by building in general, especially plumbing, but lots of building. And when I was a teenager, I used to go to the libraries that are close to me, and I used to look for construction related books and look in them for things that were interesting. And so I've collected a few that I thought were cool. Um, One of my favorites was this one, and I think I've filmed this book before. Uh, I may do a separate video on this. This is actually part of a series of construction encyclopedias, and I have other ones like it. But I found this book at my grandma's house when I was a teenager, and I just thought it was so fascinating because it's called Radford's Cyclopedia of Construction. And this particular volume covers heating, ventilation, plumbing, and sanitation. These were published in 1909. I'm not going to go through this whole book, but it's got it starts out with heating systems, like you got some old fashioned hot air heating. That's like where you'd have the old fashioned central coal fired furnace with ducts leading out. There's like a steam heat. Or is that water? Is that hot water? No, it's hot water. There is some steam heating in here somewhere. That might still be water. Single pipe steam. There's like a single pipe steam heat diagram. Kind of cool stuff like that. I spent a lot of time looking at this book and kind of wore it out. And it's not, it's mostly just kind of goes over different principles of plumbing. You got a cross section of a cast iron pipe joint. I've always been fascinated by the old oakum and lead caulked cast iron. There's like a mock-up house plan with a with a plumbing plan in it. It's a single bath house with the bathroom upstairs. I thought that was interesting. And there's a few actual photographs of things. The old sidearm style water heater. Lots of diagrams that are interesting, like yeah. That's pretty cool. There's a seat operated tank toilet. Well, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time here. I can make another video on this book if people want. That's a diagram, just kind of a mock-up of a commercial restroom. And that's a early pressure flush toilet. Stuff like that. Also, this is where I learned a lot about pressure tanks. In fact, I penciled in some numbers. I always found this table to be fascinating. That basically describes how pressure tanks work. If you fill a pressure tank up a certain fraction of the way full, you'll have so many pounds, and that's pretty interesting. Anyway, this is another plumbing book that I wore out, literally. It doesn't have a cover anymore, but this one's called Do-It-Yourself Plumbing by a guy named, well, last name is Alf. I think it's Max Alf. And I bought this book because it had some details in it that a lot of the other books that I found didn't have. Because I pretty much ate up anything that I could find as far as plumbing information goes. It's like steam and hot water heat. Lots of cool pictures. I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of basic, but goes over tools. You got your pipe threaders and caulking irons and a reamer. I've got most of those tools. So for pipe and fittings, different kinds of pipe. You got galvanized and copper. There were even kinds of pipe in here that I'd never heard of before. Like, touches briefly on like asbestos cement and Orangeburg fiber pipe, which is not made anymore. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. Shows you how to thread a galvanized pipe. That shows you how to caulk a cast iron pipe. Yeah, there you go. See, that's what it should look like. You pack it first with a loose hemp rope called oakum. You pack that real tight, and then you pour the top full of molten lead. So if you ever see drain pipes that look like this in an old building, that's how they were done. And then you have to use special chisels called caulking irons to pack the lead tight. So that's before the 60s, and in some places even before the 80s. That's how drain pipes were done. You had to melt lead in a plumber's furnace and pour it in the joint. Becoming a lost art. Very, very few places where you would do something like that anymore. You might still see it done in cities. Wiped lead joints for lead pipe. That is a lost art. I always thought the vitrified clay pipe was kind of cool. Not something you see much anymore. And then lots of stuff on like rebuilding old style faucets, simple valve washers and valve stem packing. Um, you don't really, I mean, unless you're working on old plumbing parts, you don't really use a lot of this info anymore. But I like to find and learn about the old information. You got your valve stem packing that shows you how to repack a valve stem. Fuller ball faucets, those things are ancient. I've never seen one. Um, how to unclog pipes, unclog your toilet. Use closet auger, plunger, sewer snake. I think that's a cadet. It's like a 50s cadet, probably. I really liked this. This fascinated me too. There used to be a practice of installing a main house trap in the building, the main house drain. So that would be like a 4-inch trap that would trap pretty much everything in the house. That wasn't done everywhere. I've never seen one in my area, but I know of other places where it's done. You still see them sometimes in big cities like New York City or Chicago or Philadelphia. A lot of times they require main house traps, but they can be prone to clogging. So this part of the book shows you how to unclog them. And then another part of this book that I liked, when it shows you actually how to design a water system. And there's some useful tables in here, like it gives you an idea of how to calculate resistance in a given size of pipe over a certain length, so you can figure out how big you need to make your pipe and figure out how much the demand is. Your lavatory faucet requires 8 psi and 3 gallon a minute or something. It's less than that now because these are old faucets. But so you count all these numbers up in your house, and then you can determine, based on the number of feet of pipe, you can size your pipes. I thought that was really fascinating. I enjoy tables and info like this. And it was actually this part of the book that gave me the information that I needed to build my first flushometer setup. That's when I realized, when I took the information that I learned from this book, and I realized that I could use a pressure tank to make a flushometer toilet setup, even though my house plumbing didn't have piping big enough. I could feed a pressure tank with my house plumbing and just put a big pipe between the tank and the toilet, and I could flush a flushometer toilet. So that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed this book. There's some more cast iron work being done. shows how to level a stack with a plumb bob, or plumb, I guess. And then this book was written in the 70s, and in that time, there was a time when copper was popular for soil pipe, like big 3 and 4 inch copper. That's pretty rare now. It's quite expensive. But there was a time when it was popular. I've seen a few buildings with copper DWV. There is also they also put some extra little tidbits in here about installing an old toilet. You know, like a low tank, non-close coupled toilet. You know, like a modernist if you wanted to. Shows you some extra things to watch out for. How to install a wall-hung toilet. In all honesty, there's not a whole lot of detail. I mean, you know, this was the first picture I ever saw of what's actually behind the wall on a wall-hung toilet. So it shows you that there's a carrier. And this is one type of carrier. There are carriers that attach to a cast iron soil pipe. They're not that common, but it's one example, and I thought that was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure, and it says, you know, this courtesy of American Standard, I'm pretty sure that's a cross-section of, well, I thought it was a Norwal, but it might be a Glen wall. I'm just looking at that 28.5. I'm thinking a Norwal might be a little more compact than that. If so, then it's a Glen wall. But either way, that's pretty cool. It's the first cross-section I ever saw of a wall-hung toilet. And this is kind of cool. You might find some old sinks where they can't make them this way anymore, but old sinks used to have the fillers below the rim of the sink. Well, you can't have that now, because if the sink ever filled up with dirty water, there is a chance that it could siphon back into the pipes if there was something wrong with the water pressure in your pipes. And then this is another thing too. If you have a bathtub with an old-fashioned inlet that's in the tub, well, suppose the drain is clogged, you know, suppose tub fills up with dirty water. Somebody, you know, if this valve is closed or if the water doesn't work for some reason, if somebody opens the valve down here, it's going to siphon water all the way down. Kind of cool. Cool plumbing knowledge. Well, anyway, I'm going to have to break this up. A little bit of stuff on steam and hot water heating. Well, I'm going to break this up and start another video.